All right, everybody, welcome to week 5. In this module, we'll be studying social empathy. Key takeaways we want you to walk away with. So we want you to understand the concept of social empathy, analyze the differences between interpersonal empathy and social empathy. We want you to start thinking about social empathy at the macro level. And then by the end, we want you to articulate what social empathy is and how it can be beneficial to your clients that you work with. Here are the definitions of empathy and social empathy, respectively. So empathy is the ability to understand the feelings, thoughts, and experiences of another person from that person's point of view and perspective. And social empathy is an empathetic understanding of other groups. What's the difference between empathy and social empathy? In our video and article that are presented in Module 5, you'll see that there's 2 additional components, and that's the macro perspective, so the bigger picture, not just the individual perspective, but a broader societal perspective on institutions and power imbalances, and the contextual understanding. So what is a specific contextual situation that a client comes from? What we mean by contextual understanding and social empathy is really looking at the broader social, historical context that a client comes from. And so we're thinking a little bit broader than just the individual situation. And I'm going to add this third component, which is the culture and identity of others. And so, especially when you're working with someone that's not from your own group, we definitely want to pay close attention to that. The article and the video for Module 5 discuss a model for social empathy and the 3 levels. And so we have exposure at the first level, explanation at the second level, and experience at the third level. And the idea behind the article is why there are working poor and how that's a contradiction in society, because according to the American dream, right, we talked about that as an ideology, that everybody should have an equal opportunity. It's people that are working hard won't be poor and won't be struggling. But in reality, what we're seeing on the ground is that there are people that are working and that are still poor and that are in need of services. And so the reasons for that and the reasons why there are trouble, according to the article, addressing some of those inequalities is because a lot of the decision makers lack social empathy. So being empathetic and socially empathetic is not easy. It's hard to do, and there's reasons why. We talked about our bias in the previous week. And so being non-judgmental is a key component to being empathetic and socially empathetic. So we have to overcome our own biases, prejudgments, and they can be an obstacle if we are working with people other than ourselves, and if you're not familiar with those people. When we're working with people that are not like ourselves, a concept that we can bring in is cultural humility. And in order to be humble, to have humility, in a cultural sense, is to be other-oriented. And recognizing the limitations of our own viewpoints and our own experiences in comparison to with the lived cultural experience of others. We have to engage in self-exploration and self-critique, and something that we really do emphasize in our curriculum. And not just knowing about other people's beliefs, customs, and values, but knowing of how it's important to those people that you're working with. You're not just acknowledging them, but you're accepting the differences that people have, and you'll engage in partnerships to address any structural imbalances that are being experienced by other cultural groups. One saying that I like is to check yourself at the door. And I actually heard that from a home visitor. For some of you that are familiar or not familiar with home visiting, it's basically a prevention program where home visitors go into homes and work with parents on their parenting skills and early childhood development. And so one of the home visitors says, I always check myself at the door. So I think that's a really good way of looking at it. And so what we mean by that is to be other oriented. That means you're not thinking about what you personally would do in that situation, but you're truly going outside of yourself and understanding that person in their own situation. You have to be reflective and take the time. And so some tools that you can use in your internships, if you are in one, or even in your current place of work, is supervision, journaling, or even just having these discussions. Being socially empathetic does take work. It's not easy. And I'll give you a specific example that I'm experiencing in one of my projects that we have through the Office of American Indian Projects. We have a grant for training for victim service providers and domestic violence programs in tribal communities. And the service providers are working with populations that are primarily female. The service providers are primarily female. And me as a male going into this project, it really opened up my eyes. I had to check myself at the door in terms of, what are the service providers experiencing and what are the clients experiencing. Those victims or survivors, as we like to say, what are they experiencing? And understanding that I am a man and I could be viewed differently in terms of, how I'm received by people, and really going in as an open book. And what I've really found is that these programs aren't recognized in their communities, that there is a patriarchal social structure that exists where the leaders in the community are primarily male, and they might not view this situation as an important one. And so I really get an idea of where we're at in terms of the imbalance that's occurring in these communities. Your next steps: read the Module 5 content, read the article, and watch the video. And you have a paragraph that's due at the usual time next Sunday. But I'm also going to, I feel like this is a good topic to have a discussion board, so I'm working on putting together the discussion board. That'll be due on the same day as well. It'll be the same format. It's going to be pick a topic that I list and respond to 2 of your classmates. And so that's a chance to get some extra points. Here are the references, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Feel free, as I always say, to post a question on the discussion board or email me directly. I'm pretty good about the email. Sometimes if I don't answer back right away in terms of the discussion board, feel free to email me and let me know, and I'll try to get back to you as best as I can. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.